Welcome back to Jessica's Craft Time. My name's Jessica, and today we're going to build some Nano Room miniatures. I actually received these as a gift for Christmas. I'm not sure where they came from. I've had a little bit of a search. I'm going to have to suss out who the KK was and find out where they came from because I really enjoyed building these ones. The quality of the pieces and the instructions were amazing. So we're going to start off with a little rocking horse, and of course I'm going to bring my little green tray over. Love my green tray. Um, just helps keep all my pieces little together. So once you get into the packaging, you've got the instructions, and then you actually have a inventory sheet that has real life sizes of the pieces that you need. So all I've done is grab all my pieces, laid them all on top of each of the spots, and I know I have everything. I loved it. I absolutely love that. I'm just going to set up here with some glue, my little patty pan and a toothpick. These are basic things that I use to build miniatures, and my baby wipes. Need them to clean off everything because I get glue everywhere. So the instructions were really, really simple to follow. All you needed to do was pop a bit of glue on each item. This one was a little bit of like felt for the mane, so I popped the glue on with the toothpick. Other than that, I just dipped the pieces into the glue. Um, really, really impressed, and I'm definitely going to have to suss out where they came from because they were just really nice quality. They're not a whole room, they're just pieces. So we're going to do a rocking horse, a cat scratcher, and a piano. So you just follow the instructions. They have each step of where they go. I just had to keep fixing the mane up. It kept sort of sliding off the head. And it was just a matter of a little bit of glue into each item. And in we went. They slid in really nicely. The pieces fitted together really nicely. The quality of the wood was really nice. By far, I've enjoyed building all my miniature rooms, but by far the instructions on these and the quality of the wood was the best that I've come across so far. So I'm going to be really keen to find out exactly where these came from. Have a feeling it was my sister, and she's pretty nifty online finding things. So we'll see what happens and if I get any of them in the future. But the rocking horse came together really nicely. It was just a little bit of glue. Mark absolutely loved the rocking horse when I showed him when he got home that night. And like I said, all the pieces just slid into each other really nicely. They're nice quality. I didn't feel I was going to snap any pieces. Clean off some of the glue, excess glue, and we have our rocking horse. And he's just so adorable. I love him. He's so cute. So the next one we're going to build is the piano. So all your bits come in the box. You've got all your pieces and your instructions. This one was a little bit bigger, so it had two sheets. It had one sheet that had your inventory. So I'll pop that off to the side, and then the instructions. Now with the inventory sheet, I did the same thing. I opened each package and placed it on the section it needed to go on the inventory sheet to make sure I had all the pieces. Also easy because there was a couple of wooden pieces here that were very similar in size. So having that inventory sheet that I could lay it on top and see, and if I was really concerned or worried, they actually had the sizes, the actual size measurement of each piece. So you could grab a ruler and measure, which is what I normally do. Normally it's a much smaller image and it just gives you a sort of an idea of what you're looking for. So with this one, you've actually got like a photograph of the image as well as the sizes. So you can always double check with the sizes. So you've got your cutout here. These are all for your tops. Each bag was sort of separate. One bag was for the actual piano, one was for the stool, and one was for the decorations. Excuse me. All right, now it's just a matter of putting it together. So I'm using my tacky glue. So it's very similar to a PVA glue, except this one's just a little bit tackier, which means it doesn't slip and slide quite as much as what a PVA glue does. And I find it really great for putting wood, joining wood on wood. And now it's just a matter of going through each each instruction and finding out where the piece goes. This piano actually has quite a lot of weight to it. That block is quite heavy that you're gluing it all onto. And we're building up. And the piano has a little secret something coming later on that I thought was really nifty. So with each piece, I'm either gluing directly onto the piece, depending how big it is and where it needs to be, or I've got my toothpick with my glue sitting off to the side. Now here you can see that there's quite a bit of glue bubbled up. That's okay, the glue will dry clear, plus it ends up getting covered as well. So I'm just bringing the directions. The downside with the piano being completely black was I did have just a little bit of trouble seeing sometimes on the image exactly where it should be because it's black on black. But I managed to work out each one. The instructions by far have been the easiest that I've done. Now, this is for the actual piano keys, and they need to be folded around a bit of wood. So I've just got my picker tool. Basically, it's just a pointed metal tool, and all would do the same thing. And I've just lightly scored the paper, making sure that I'm not cutting through the paper. There's only a really small section that needs to be folded over. So I've scored it and then used my ruler as an edge and folded it over the ruler. I also did that before I cut off the bottom section just so that I gave myself a little bit extra paper to hold on to. So I cut down the sides, but I left the top and bottom on, and that was just to give me paper to hold while I did it, and then cut the rest off. And then this is just glued onto the piece. Oh, excuse me, I've got the yawns today. This was the only time that I used a different glue, and this is the Tombow multi-purpose glue, and it's what I use for my card making and on any paper bits within most paper bits within my miniatures. The reason I use it, especially on something that you're gluing a larger sheet of paper to a bit of wood, is that it's not going to bubble the paper. With things like PVA, if you get a little bit too much of it, the paper will actually bubble if you haven't completely laid the glue flat. Even some paper, depending how thick the paper is, will also bubble. So I always use my Tombow. Now this is where I went to do this piece. This is just this is a piano lid. So it glues together and it shows you in the image which piece needs to be glued where. And then this lid actually opens and shuts on the piano. It's got a little hole that it goes through. And this is where I went, oh, hang on, it's sticking. This lid's glue is wet. The side of my piano is wet. I'm going to put it all aside, let it dry as much as I can before I come back to it. So I've just moved on to some different steps from the piano. The reason I quite often let things dry is that if they're wet, they move around a bit and it just creates more issues for you. Sometimes it is just completely easier to let it dry. Make sure all your pieces are where they need to be. put it aside, and come back to it. So now we're just going to start building the stool, and this was really, really simple. The wood that the stool seat, where all the base and the feet get stuck to, actually had little indents cut into it. Not indents, but it was sort of engraved in the wood that showed you exactly where these pieces needed to go, which was really, really handy to know that you're getting them in the right spot. And then it was just sticking the two longer legs on and you were done. That was the stool. It's very cute. It was really easy to make. And like I said, the quality, you can't get it in a video, but the quality of the wood and the finish of the wood has been much better than any other kit that I've done. So I'm just going to do the flowers for the top of piano. So these are stamens here, and you need to fold it in half. It took me a couple of goes to work out the best way to do it. I didn't know if it would go all the way through. I've just shoved some glue in there and tried to stick them through that were folded over. But the issue that I was having was, even though I could pull them through at the back, I was only getting 2 or 3 of the ones. Then they were disappearing down into the bead. I'm like, this is doing my head in. Why won't it work for me? Any other day, it would have worked fine. I'm sure I've done it this way before when I've put these kind of things into beads. So in the end, I gave up and I'm like, no, I'm just going to cut them. So I just got my scissors, cut them, repositioned all the top of the flower, or what would be the flower buds, so that they're all the same, and then just twisted it and poked it through and set it aside. There was enough glue on it that that would all hold. The last thing for the piano is a little picture frame, making sure that you've got the picture the right way up before you stick the base on it, and that's that done. This is where my baby wipe always comes in handy. Clean your hands. I started getting glue everywhere. So now we're going to move that off to the side while the piano dries a bit, just so that it doesn't stick where we don't want it to stick. Oh, I think I need another nap. It's been raining here all week, so I'm feeling like that, you just want to curl up on the couch with a good book or a movie and go to sleep for a bit. So this is a cat scratcher. This is really cute because it's got wood, felt, and twine. The bag was a little bit difficult to find where to get into it, but once we got into it, we were fine. And it's the same thing. It has the inventory sheet as well as the instruction sheet, which I just laid all my pieces down onto the inventory sheet. On the inventory sheet, it also stated if it was a felt piece or if it was a wood piece. No, I think it just said if it was felt. All the others were wood, and it just said if it was felt. So these are all the wooden pieces, and then we had all the pre-cut felt pieces. And a little ball on a string. And then we had the twine, and this is what goes round, a cat scratcher. So we move that off to the side and get our instruction sheet out. And this is really simple. The first one I did actually measure, but then I just went by eye for the rest of them. So I got my ruler out and I just marked it with a grey lead pencil, just because if I wanted to erase it, I could, because it said 90 mil in from either side and wrap it for about 1.5 centimeters. So I just wanted to get a feel for how it went on and what it looked like, and work out how I was going to glue this twine on. So all I did was I got my glue, I got my toothpick, and I put glue all around the section that I wanted the twine to stick to. And then it suggests that you fold it down, then wrap it round and wrap over that piece that you folded into it. This is where your baby wipe's really going to come in handy. I wound it round, held it in place, and then added just a little bit of extra glue just to that last little tail to make sure that it stayed glued down well. So We repeat this 3 times, 2 of the smaller ones and a longer one, and the glue's held all that twine in place. Sometimes I had enough glue already sort of pushed out from under the twine. Other times I needed to add a little bit extra just to hold that last little bit in place. So this one is the longer white pole. Same thing, this will end up having 2 bits of twine on it. The first one was really simple to do, the same as we did the other. And then, oh no, this is still one of the little ones. This must be further down. The long one you need to do as well. So it had a little bit of twine at the bottom, and then you put the cat scratcher together and put the second lot of twine on. The second lot of twine was quite difficult to put on. Not difficult. It was just a little bit more of a challenge to put on rather than having it in your hands. You were having to work, and with it in your hands, you were able to give it a little bit more pressure that you could hold it tighter on. This was a little bit more wobbly putting together, and it was probably just me and the day. You know, some days you sit down to do a craft and it all works fine. Other days it doesn't work. Hubby builds Warhammer miniatures, and he calls out to me sometimes. He's like, "Oh, I've done this." And if it's quite late at night, I'll go, "Okay, now you've done that. Now it's time to pack up." And he looks at me. I'm like, "Once you've made one mistake, you're going to keep making more mistakes. Once you make that one mistake, it's time to pack up and start fresh tomorrow." That's my opinion anyway. I find the more I keep trying to push through it, the more mistakes I make, the more undoing I have to do, and the more frustrated I get. So this was just a matter of putting a little bit of glue in each bit. The ladder I did have a little bit more difficulty with, trying to get it to sit where I needed it to sit. And it actually needed to be not pushed all the way into the hole. It needed to be on a little bit more of an angle. So now we've got the second layer of the cat scratcher going on. And this is where I had the trouble with the ladder. I was like, where does it sit? Every time I push down, the pole's pushed out a little bit. And it's just a matter of keep playing with it until it's where you want it to be. I'm like, yeah, I think that'll work. I don't know. I did end up moving the ladder. It doesn't end up staying in that position. So this is where I had to put the second, oh, no, it's actually the fourth lot of twine. It was the last bit of twine. And like I said, it was a little bit more difficult to hold it in place because as I was holding it, I was knocking everything else. It was all moving, and I'm like, nah, we just need to get the twine on and then readjust everything. So I cut it to make it a little bit shorter because it was very hard to wrap the longer bit around. And I did the same thing as the others. I just put the extra glue on the end to hold the twine in, and then I went back and adjusted everything else. Should really try using a hot glue gun one day. I don't know how that'd work. I reckon instead of just getting glue everywhere, I'll also burn my fingers. I made our little Easter bonnet for the Easter parade for school on the weekend, and yeah, definitely burnt my fingers a little bit. And this is where I'm just playing with it to get it in the right spot, and I think that's what we end up doing with the ladder. It doesn't actually go into the holes, it's just kind of balancing on the top and pushed back. The cat scratcher, funny because I thought it would be the easiest, but for me it was the most difficult. The rocking horse was super easy to do. The piano was quite easy. This one was definitely the most fiddliest out of the 3, and it was just getting the position right on it because that white section's kind of just balancing there. It's glued in, but it's not. It's kind of just balancing until it all dries. So yeah, now we're going to be making the little corner bit. And yet again, the instructions tell you which piece needs to sit on which piece which way. And then we've just got the top of it and the front of it all to go on. This becomes like a triangle box for your little kitty cat to go and hide in. Not that, you know, if your kitty cat likes to be hidden. That's the top piece that just went on, and that's for the pole to sit in. And now we've got the little hole for the kitty cat to go in. And this all just gets glued directly onto the top of the room. You do need to be a little bit careful as all the corners are still a little bit wet. So you don't want to squeeze too hard or else you'll pop something out. Now we've got to make our little dangly pom-pom. So I just sort of measured it roughly where I wanted it to hang down and just tied it off. The thread didn't want to work the way I wanted it to work. It just wasn't happening for me. It kept going the wrong way. I think I had too much glue on my fingers. So I got the tweezers out and that helped eventually. I didn't want to let go with my other hand and lose the length that I'd been trying to keep. So you just trim that off, and this piece has a bit of felt over the top, so that's not going to move out because you're sticking felt over the thread as well. So just a little bit more glue over it and your piece of felt. And then we're going to put a dollop in there, and that's where our cat scratcher pole goes, and a little dollop of glue in the other end for it to sit down. Now this was the cat bed. This was a little bit of a challenge just because I couldn't get the felt to sit properly. And probably by this point I haven't cleaned my fingers off well enough and I've got glue sticking to everything as well. But it just needs to wrap round. I possibly should have used a different glue for this because every time I tried to let go, it ended up popping off. So I tried holding it for a little bit to see if it was strong enough, and that definitely wasn't strong enough. So I ended up finding a clip that I was able to clip. I tried the washi tape first. That didn't really work. It just wouldn't stay for me. The glue just wouldn't hold it. Maybe a hot glue gun there would be really good. But yeah, I just found a little bulldog clip and sat that down to dry. And this is where I say sometimes you need to just let things dry. I did try to attach it, but with the bulldog clip it was too heavy on the one side and was going to keep falling over. And I took it off and it didn't work, so we put it back on, and that's where I'm like, right, you're both going off to the side to dry, and let's keep going with the piano. So the piano's not completely dry by this point, but it's drier than what it was when I put it to the side. So the little lip of it sits into the side of the piano, and then you put the last end on. And because this piano lid sits in little holes on the end, you'll see the little hole there as I line it up to get it in. It means that the little lid can open and shut, which I think is just adorable. Finishing off the piano was not difficult. We just needed to put a little handle on the front of our piano lid to make it easy to open and shut. We need to put the top of the piano on, and that's just again with the tacky glue. Pop it on top and away you go. Make sure you've got it all lined up and the overhang around about the same on either side. And we've got our tiny little feet or pedals. What are they called? I don't know a piano very well. I'm pretty sure they're called a pedal that go on the bottom of the piano. So I'm just scraping some glue off my paper there to stick them in. And then we have the uprights or the legs of the piano itself. I I just dabbed a little bit of glue on each, and these were a very tight fit. So it was just a matter of manipulating them and pushing them till they went in. I probably wouldn't have even needed glue on them. They were quite solid in there, but with the glue, they're not moving once that glue dries. And they're your decorative legs. And it's time to decorate the top. Oh, no, we put our music sheet on, which I just ran through the glue. And then we're going to put our runner over the top. So this was a really cute little polka dot ribbon that came in the kit. If you didn't like the ribbon, you could always swap it out for a different ribbon or just leave it plain. You don't have to have a runner across the top. And now it's just a matter of dabbing some glue on the bottom of each thing and sticking it on. So let's see what we've created here. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed making these. I really did, and I'll definitely be trying to find out where whoever purchased them for me got them from, because I really did enjoy the quality. I hope to see you in the next video. A new miniature room will be out possibly next week. We'll just see how we go. They are a little bit time consuming. So hopefully next week, nothing happens this week that will stop me from filming. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.